All right, we're live. Usually in the 90s, the guy would have a giant camcorder and he pulls it out and it's funny in front of his family, but I don't have one, so it's a smartphone. And we're in 2024. Y2K happened and like they're promoting it as if it was one. And nowadays, there's no receptionist and a hair cutter, so I'm trying to get mine. And then I entered it online as 526. It's now 523, and I had to check in because that's what you do when you go to get a haircut. But since there's no receptionist, I had to go on the keyboard, and it said wait another 44 minutes. So we're gonna see what happens. So if you put two and two together, the window, I think I just pigeonholed myself by checking in. In the excerpt that I read, I pulled a page out of a book before I came here. The book was called The Inner Space, The Shape of Inner Space. And not for nothing, but there's no audio. Usually I have to fight over like a radio blaring when I'm inside a store and it gets copywritten. But luckily they have like their TVs on low sound, so I'm not going to get. But in the shape of inner space, the page, the excerpt said that there's no classical way to put a dysfunction so that they immediately allude to what geometry shapes are. And so if you can't put oh, time. Anytime. Okay. If you can't. So I just got my hair cut. This person told me to look up the guy who got killed at the Waffle House. To R.I.P. Flynn. A lot of people in the rap groups, they die. People in the rock industry's OD. They're like everyone's dying, but it wasn't anyone real since the 90s. And so she said, look up NF and then PNB Rock. I stopped going to malls after a bioweapon hit, so not for nothing, but Subway has Annie's dough. It's pretzels, so a review of it real quick. Let's see how it is. I can taste the similarities. It's in like Flynn. So these guys running Subway, they're from India. Like the Jungle Book goes hard, right? They thought I was racist. So I'm like, no, the guy from England wrote Lewis and Carroll Wonderland. He was British, and they're like, oh yeah, whoever wrote that script was raw. I'm like, you're right. Because the Jungle Book name Bagheera and Mowgli are these Indian names, they would confirm it. But someone from the Middle East, I think, or Africa, it looks like Middle East, though, came up with the Jungle Book. Jungle Book. I said the orangutan scene was kind of like these Aztec temples, but we couldn't confirm that either. Because they said they didn't see that scene, but they know the Jungle Book. So shot the guys running Subway, they're both from India. Because in the afterlife, they say on YouTube that the senses are more attuned than what they are regularly, and you get downloads with whatever you look at. It's like AI on steroids. But you're actually doing it with yourself through other things. Okay, notably so, there's a crux in things, and if you see this divide, you know what I mean. When they're melding this bottle, don't look at the label, but that's where the divide is, right there. And look at my pants. These are the guts of these red bugs, and they keep crawling on me. Nevertheless, the case, people around my town are like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they're here. Millions of these effers. They found out how to spawn, and they're just around a lot. So you sit down on something, you get these red things crawling on you. I've had to take out quite a few. Not for nothing, but they're probably on my back and I can't see them. Juk and jiving. Notably so, last time I was here was the vendors that were setting up, and they're so serious. I saw one guy was in my private club, because I'm in one, and he was setting up, he was a vendor. Notably so, be right back.
Out of a placement of my importance of the brainstem and spine is the square and divorce crotch. How to apply that is, when I was telling it to Becca King's boyfriend, it's that if you imply what he was getting washed at, like a mid-range, and you're bent over, that attack with the mid-range in your prone position and you're getting attacked on a bench press, is if you could do the crab walk and Devora and hone in all other placements where like your feet are taking pressure, to apply that to loosen an Akuma attack if you're like not leaning with it and you're using your neck with a 35-pound problem. And then how to move your back to do a crab walk like Devora and Scorpion when she does a counter, and just how to apply. That's like the region where you apply if you're Devora, but if you're a human being, try to do that with how Johannesai had that featured to like basically any attack that's like your foot, but in a mid-range, if you mid-grapple, to relieve pressure or initiate it, to do basically anything mid-range grapple or Liu Kang bicycle kick. Regime of exchanging.
Okay, so to pick something that I'm a curbside all-star, I, will lose my life over being on a curbside because that's bare minimum. If you take this for granted, it isn't, because my life's one. With whatever that might mean. Flight for life. No, if you're going onto a crosswalk in a small town, no one in a small town wants to stop for people on a crosswalk because they're in a hurry if it's downtown in a small town. If you put two and two together, you know the enigma is that people in small towns don't know downtown because it's so small. It is what it is. I can't cut it any simpler, but in downtown, in a small town, the intersection, if you're on a crosswalk and you're walking, not on a bike, not on a skate, nothing with wheels, you're walking on a crosswalk downtown in a small town, people will look at you with such disgust as if you're not supposed to be on a crosswalk. I know I'm in the road crossing, but the look on their eyes, I've seen people throw their hands up like, what am I doing crossing on a crosswalk? And this is in small towns. They want to honk their horn, but they can't because they know I'm on a crosswalk. So there I am, it happens every time. It's not one example. There's, it happens every time. So it's one car, you got to dodge them if you're on a crosswalk. When you're walking on a crosswalk downtown, small town, it's not safe. Just because you're on a crosswalk, you have to actually look at cars as they're approaching you because they will zip in front and behind you as you're crossing on a crosswalk downtown on the small town. Is what it is. It's just, you have to understand that. The safest way is to be walking. If you're on a bike, don't go on the bike because they'll make it look worse. As if you're being erratic on a crosswalk, just walk your bike past. But the main point in case is that I'm a curbside all-star. So, I was on a curb and crossing before I got to the crosswalk. I'm looking for cars because I know what's coming, right? None of them care. This guy, he pulls, this is what I'm trying to get intricate, and whenever I do, it loses the attention. I know I've been one of them, but this is as bare minimum as I can get the rules of the road. When you're approaching a crosswalk from a curb and a guy or a girl or non-binary, Pride Month, they're reaching the crosswalk, I saw him. He's looking, excuse my spit, the opposite direction of the curb because he's not concerned about the curb. Any pedestrian on it, not part of his program. He's looking so the opposite direction of me to the road where oncoming traffic is. Reasonable enough, right? But he's accelerating to a stop sign, a rolling stop sign. So I'm entering the road. See my foot? I'm entering the road. His head is turned away from me. So I'm about to get blindsided from him. And so the acceleration, he's accelerating into a stop sign with his head turned the opposite direction of me. I know if I'm just reasonable to go on a crosswalk, I'm going to get lit the F up because he is accelerating to a rolling stop sign with his head turned opposite direction. Yeah, super scary, but is what it is. Secondly, if you log on, I already teased it already. 0 for 2. I logged in online for an appointment, and this is for a haircut. And this haircut appointment, when you're logging in online, it said to be here on time, and I was 3 minutes early, but I logged in at the checkout counter. I don't have a phone number that works. So I put in a random one. It was kind of mine. I don't have mine memorized because it's not even real. If you're memorizing something that's not real, that's equivalent to Einstein doing something that is meaningless, but you're doing it with enthusiasm. So that's the depiction of retardation. But he called it insanity. But to me, there's no difference between those two. So I entered in the number that I thought because I haven't memorized it. It's not actually my phone number because I don't have one. And so in entering in my address, my email address, it said you now have a 44-minute wait. So if we're putting 2 and 2 together, I went from a being on time 3 minutes early to a 44-minute wait. There's 2 guys in front of me. A third guy walked in. I was 0 for 3. So I literally was gambling with, maybe I'm next. 3 times in a row I wasn't. So is what it is. One guy just walked out. I might be next.